get all that stuff out, and get ready to write it a little bit. So let's see. We talked in class a bit. We read a bit of the poem. We had a little conversation. You had a conversation with your peers. You've done all the annotation stuff. Hopefully, you did the work to identify the literal stuff and then get deeper into it. I did have some. I was a little surprised by some of the things that I read in students' TPCASTs. Um, so I kind of wanted to maybe discuss and model a few things here. I also wanted to provide some stuff. Um, Again, we're learning a process here. The process of doing the TPCAST and DIDLS, the process about writing about theme, and I want you to learn it. So to help you along the way, I'm going to support you with a few things. I'm going to give you some tone stuff here that, if this helps you maybe think about the poem in a different way. Um, if perhaps you didn't choose a super specific word for the tone and now you see these, maybe it'll kind of help you. And you can go back and say, actually, oh, yeah, I see. I wrote that the poem was, you know, uh, negative in tone. And now I see that maybe elegiac is the word I wanted to use, or melancholic is the word I wanted to use. Or I said it was kind of neutral, but maybe somber is the word I wanted to use. Maybe introspective is a better word. I don't know. So take a look at those, see if you like any of them, see if they influence your understanding of the poem. So also, yeah, I wanted to take a look at the actual poem itself here for a moment and talk about a few things here. One question I asked of at least one of my class periods is, did this poem have a happy ending or a sad ending? And to me, I think a lot of people took the second stanza as a very positive stanza, which again was kind of a surprise to me. If I'm doing my TippyCast or Diddles or both of Mirror, one thing that most people I think did a great job of is seeing the word mirror there. They realized it was going to be about reflection to some extent. And yes, immediately we see that the poem itself is about some literal reflection, but then also I think it's about like kind of more of a deeper reflection as well. Right off the bat, you see some interesting details here. How does the mirror describe itself? I'm silver, I'm exact. I have no preconceptions. A lot of interesting things going on here. I think you could probably, preconceptions is kind of an interesting use of diction right there. I like silver and exact as well. In terms of imagery, something I really like is there's a lot of this uh, like water imagery here. Um, Everything, whatever I see, I swallow immediately. So like water, like fluid, like something like that. And how do they swallow it? Um, they swallow it. Whatever they see, how do they see it? How do they swallow it? Unmisted. I think that's another interesting. That's supposed to be imagery right there. Unmisted by love or dislike. Again, the swallow goes along with the water imagery. Unmisted goes along with the water imagery. As we get further and further along here, as we get to the second stanza, it becomes very clear there's a lot more water imagery as we see that now the speaker itself has become a lake, and whose reaches are being searched. And in that lake, we see a very interesting metaphor and symbol here of this young girl who I think exists in that first stanza up here. How that young girl has now been drowned, which is another interesting word choice, I think, right there. Interesting bit of diction right there. Interesting image right there. And then again, going back to the kind of water imagery, um, the young girl has been drowned, but then this old woman uh, rises up and comes at her like a terrible fish. So interesting water imagery that kind of extends throughout the thing. A lot of strange language to support that. Interesting diction, interesting word choices. But I guess the point I wanted to make here is about the separation between the stanzas. Um, I think there's definitely a shift that is signaled. I think both like visually by this change from one stanza to the other, but then I think the shift is also pretty much just like announced straight to you. At first, the mirror tells you what they're like. They're silver and exact. They don't have any preconceptions. They're not there to judge you based on what they feel about you. They're not biased. They're not cruel. They're not mean. They only tell the truth. So you have this very unbiased, very direct mirror in the first stanza here, who's telling you a little bit about itself, and then now it shifts all of a sudden, and now that mirror, that reflection that we identified right from the beginning there, now it's a lake. So very clear shift, I think, that goes on right in the middle there. Um, but the another shift that I want you to be aware of is the overall shift in tone. So in this first stanza right here, we have this mirror who tells you that it's very unbiased and all that. And then I think what's really interesting is where that mirror sits on the wall and what that mirror sees. Here, I think the tone is very just kind of introspective. It's kind of neutral. It's kind of plain in stanza number one. It just says, "Yeah, I sit on a wall. I face another pink wall, and the between me and the wall, there's like this kind of flickering going on." I thought that was an interesting word choice as well. Flickers. But there's this. It's also an interesting detail. There are these flickers of faces and darkness that separate us over and over. And I think of like time lapse photography or something. I think of this mirror, this little four colored mirror, who's sitting on the wall. They're all silver and exact and whatnot, and they're facing over to some pink some pink wall over here. And then just every once in a while, some faces just kind of pass by real quick, and every once in a while, it goes from day to night, and time is just passing really quickly without really like one face kind of hanging out in front of the mirror for too long. But then what's interesting to me, I think, is that moving to the second stanza, uh, along with the shift in the speaker, who is now the surface of the lake rather than the mirror, now the woman who is looking over the mirror, are they just like flickering past the mirror? No, this woman is bending over them, searching my reaches for what she really is. So now it goes from this little kid who just kind of flickers past the mirror all the time. Now there is this woman who is standing there and she is searching. I don't know why I'm doing these little drawings here. She is like looking down on this, this lake beneath her, and she's not just flickering past it. She's spending time. She's searching for what she really is. It's about her appearance and it's about what she sees, but I think it's also deeper than that. That detail right there, what she really is. So there's this connection here in this poem. There's this connection between her looking in the mirror just kind of occasionally every once in a while when she's little, and then now becoming older and really staring into that reflection and really searching what she really is and stuff. Um, there are all these interesting references to these liars, the candles, or the moon. um, and the mirror itself is like, I don't lie. I'm not like using good lighting or bad lighting or something from like the candles of the mood to maybe look the person to maybe make the person look like a certain way, or flattering in candlelight, or kind of hide what they look like because it's only moonlight or something like that. The mirror, the reflection, is like, I see her back and I reflect it faithfully. I tell her exactly who she is. Again, remember, this mirror is not biased. They have no preconceptions. She may try to hide in the moonlight or use candles to look flattering or something like that. But this mirror is like, hey, man, I'm just honest. I'm just telling her what I see. And one thing that I think some people took this word rewards. When you're looking for tone, I want you looking directly into the word choices, obviously. And seeing the word rewards, I think someone might think, okay, well, rewards, that's a positive word. That's a good word. So obviously, we're the tone is a good tone. So maybe what this old lady is seeing in the mirror is a good thing. This image is a good thing. But she's rewarded with what? She's rewarding the lake with tears and an agitation of hands. She's rewarding the lake with sadness and with her hands kind of violently swinging back and forth or something like that. Or maybe seeing her, vision in the lake and then using her hand to kind of like dash it away or something like that. I think it's a negative thing. I think the use of rewards here is kind of sarcastic or something like that. What does she do for this lake that gives her vision or reflects her back faithfully? It makes her sad or it makes her angry or something like that. And then look, I am important to her. The mirror is telling you, like, I matter. This vision that she is seeing is important. Um, she comes and goes. She comes back and forth. Each morning, it's her face that replaces the darkness. So this woman in my strange little drawing here, every single morning she's coming out here, and unlike this young girl who just kind of flickered past the mirror every once in a while, now this older lady is constantly looking at herself, considering herself, and thinking about herself. And the most important thing for me in the end here is these last three lines right here. Uh, in me, the lake, she has drowned a young girl. So maybe this young girl from stanza number one here, she's killed her, she's drowned her, she's gone. And in me, an old woman rises toward her day after day like a terrible fish. This to me is not a happy little metaphor down here. This to me is something kind of sad or scary. This is a woman looking into this water, which again, take all the water imagery that comes throughout the entire poem. She is looking in this water, which is kind of an unreliable surface, but still a reflective surface. And she is realizing that this young girl that she used to be is drowned and gone and dead. And now what she sees is an old woman that is rising toward her day after day like a terrible fish. What is this symbol? Is it that now she just looks old and ugly on the outside, on the inside, both? What is it about this terrible fish symbol? Is it just about aging? Is it about death? Is it about this change that she's taken from being innocent to being experienced, or being young to being old? I don't know. My point is, though, I don't want to disagree with your opinions and ideas and thoughts about this poem, and I want you to feel very free to make arguments, supported obviously by your findings in the poem. But for me personally, I did find it a little odd that a lot of people wrote that the second stanza was like had a very positive and happy message. To me, that final grotesque image of this terrible fish rising up towards this woman who has drowned her younger self, I don't know. That personally doesn't really speak of a very positive stanza there. But I've been speaking way too much. Oh my God. Okay, let's stop. Anyway, maybe that influenced you. Maybe something that I said made sense and was resonant. Maybe not. Whatever. Um, but now, given what I've just said, given all your analysis, given all the stuff that you've already done, and now I want you to put it all together. So I want you to write a thematic statement. Okay. So how do you write a thematic statement? Well, what is the overall message? What is the overall point? What is the overall truth that the author is trying to unlock for you here? So read these two. Before writing a thematic statement, what is that central idea? What is the message? What's the point? Brainstorm, spend some time, take a couple of minutes, and think about what you think is the overall theme or message. Or steal one of these. So I have these 2 pages that, again, we're learning a process here. If you want to borrow one of these two for your theme, one of these 10 different ones that you could choose from. These are all kind of very good and interesting, I think, potential thematic statements that I've seen in the past, that I've collected in the past. So for today's purposes, you can either brainstorm, come up with one of your own, steal one of these, or maybe a blend of the two. Maybe use one of these as inspiration and come up with your own thematic statement. And for number one, all I want you to do is write your original or borrowed thematic statement. A good rule of thumb, a good important thing here is when you're writing a thematic statement, especially one like this that is going to be kind of a self-contained thing for now. Make sure you mention the title of the poem if it's available, which it is, and the name of the author if it's available, which it is. So for this thematic statement, borrow one of these, or maybe write something like this: in mirror, Sylvia Plath presents the idea that whatever theme. Okay, so that's number one. That's all I want you to do: either steal or borrow a thematic statement and write it in your paper. Then for number two, let's make this slightly more complicated. For number two, I want you to uh, write a paragraph. So your paragraph should probably start with the topic sentence, should probably basically be your thematic statement. Okay, so here's your prompt for this paragraph. How did the author use, and I want you to choose one of the diddles, let's say diction. How did the author use diction to convey the theme in mirror? So you get to choose which of the diddles are you going to write about for this paragraph. Write a minimum 5-sentence paragraph using evidence from the poem. So all I want you to do now for number 2 is copy down your thematic statement or a version of your thematic statement. You can adjust it, tweak it, make it a little bit better, whatever you need to do. And then for the next 4 or more sentences, talk about how the author used one of those DIDLs, again, diction, imagery, details, language, syntax, to convey whatever theme you wrote about in your thematic statement. So there you go. You write a thematic statement and or copy or borrow one. And then for number 2, you just write it down again as the first sentence of your paragraph. And then you write 4 additional sentences where you explain how, and this is where your DIDLs comes in, this is where your TPCASTT comes in, this is where your work analyzing the poem and finding the specific language choices, the author's craft, the stuff, the figurative language, and all that. This is your opportunity to then write some evidence, write some commentary where you support the thematic statement. So what are you doing here? You're tying a theme to author's use of language. All right. So turn that into a paragraph. Some things to consider, some bonus stuff right here. Any of these stems might kind of help you start off your sentences and put your sentences together here. That could all be useful. So take a moment, pause it if you want on that slide. So yeah, what you're going to have in the end for number 2 is some kind of thematic statement, some kind of here's some evidence, some commentary explaining why, maybe a little more evidence, whatever you need. 5 sentences total. All right. So take a look, stop on the slides, and finally do some editing, do some revising at the end. Make it better, look for specific word choices, use the dictionary, stuff like that. All right.